And this is a bike?
Yeah, that's a bike that runs by itself, so it's motorized, and so it keeps your legs moving. And I went on that at least twice a day. After therapy was all done, they let me do some extra time on the bike, and they'd hook me up. My family members would help me. They would put my feet into the stirrups, and I would do like a half an hour just letting it move, and then I would try to apply pressure as soon as I could with it, you know, pushing up against it, and that really helped me. But if you can see, my legs are, they atrophied within like 2 days after surgery. They were like jello. So when they sat me up in the hospital when I was there, they never should have did that, because that was just ridiculously frightening, because they sat me up and I didn't realize how I lost all my strength in like my trunk and everything. So when they sat me up, I just toppled over. I mean, they caught me, but I couldn't control, thankfully, but I couldn't control anything, which was, you know, that scared the hell out of me, because I didn't realize how weak I was.
And this stuff is exhausting too, isn't it?
What I did in 3 hours of therapy is what we usually do in the first 5 minutes of our day physically. And it would kick the hell out of me. I would go in between and take naps. I was in bed at 7:30 at night. I'd have them put me in. They had to put me into bed. In the beginning, it took at least 3 or 4 nurses and aides to put me into bed and get me out of bed, or a machine to put me into bed. It was like a lift that they used to set you in. And I had to go and lay flat on my back, and I'm not a person that sleeps on his back, so I had to lay flat on my back, and so that I wouldn't have blood clots, they used to put balloons that would blow up and then deflate every 30 seconds to keep blood flow going on my calves. And then I had boots on so that I wouldn't get leg drops, so that it wouldn't hurt my, what was it, like the Achilles and stuff like that, so that it wouldn't do that. And they had kickstands that went out and everything, and they were bolstered up with pillows. So when I was in bed, I was in bed. There was no getting up. I was there until the next morning. And eating, you know, breakfast in bed, it's not as cool as it seems, I'm sure. So, you know, getting sponge baths, even though Dr. Michaela tried when I was all on Vicodin, not cool.
You didn't complain back then?
Well, you know what, I wasn't really.
It only took 45 minutes.
Well, you know, that was a blessing.
What's going on here, Rick? Is goals?
That's what, yeah, I always set goals for myself. Whatever goals they set for me, I tried to go over it. So they said, let's stand for 5 minutes. I said, let's stand for 10. Sometimes I didn't make it, but I just wanted to walk. So I had tunnel vision, and that's what I wanted to do. I could think of nothing else except for walking. And so when I was standing, they said, you're going to stand for 35 minutes, and I said, I'm going to go for 40. You know, sometimes I'd make it, sometimes I wouldn't. You know, I didn't look at it as if I wouldn't, as a fail. I'd just try again the next day. I had a computer there, so, you know, I had internet access there. And I had the option of having a laptop, but I wanted to be able to go and wheel myself down to the computer and actually do it instead of just staying stationary in my room. I spent too much time in my room at night, so I wanted to be out of it as much as possible during the day.
And this is all PT, right?
That's all PT, yep. Occupational therapy, they had me doing like sewing thing or stringing and stuff, or putting puzzle together. I hate puzzles, so that was, or they had me, you know, like doing like a sewing kind of a thing. I'm not a big sewer, so. But I never would have gotten through any of it without my family. I mean, and my friends. It was amazing. And that's where, you know, so many people have nobody, and that's really, there I am lacing something. That was exciting. But I didn't realize how my fine motor skills were really, I thought it was a waste of time when I first started doing it. It wasn't, because my fine motor skills were really damaged, and I had to do a lot with like grabbing onto things and stuff like that. I didn't have what I thought I had. So that was a pretty telling tale of what it is. A friend of mine came to visit. That's a store, and that's my wife and daughter, and they brought me over here a couple times, and they measured everything out to make sure that if I had to come back in a wheelchair, that I could actually do my job if I was confined to a wheelchair. And we found that accommodations could be made, and I could. So, and I have to say the campus is very, very well equipped for people with disabilities, for wheelchairs, canes, and things like that. So it's definitely a good place for somebody if they're disabled. But at that point, I had no movement in either leg, so it didn't even look like if I was ever going to walk again. Yes?
Do you think that your motivation helped your level of success?
I think so. you know, not only support, but, you know, I've got kind of an aggressive personality, so, you know, I had to turn, you know, I really was, you know, ready to lay down at one point, and that's when I had that epiphany. But, you know, I had to turn everything that I was into just that tunnel vision and just to walk again. And that's all I wanted to do. Nothing else mattered. I just wanted to walk. So yeah, my motivation, and my daughter was really my motivation for doing it, to be the dad that I was. You know, my wife would have been fine if I wasn't around, I'm sure. My two boys are older, they would have been fine. But my little girl, that was my heart. So this is where I wanted to be, is to, you know, be able to be the dad that I was before. And that was important to me. That was everything. So. Yes?
So you said it was completely random, like it's not really genetic, right?
I'm glad you said that. You know, they do say that it's random. You know, they asked me, you know, did I have high doses of radiation? No, because that would have caused my tumor to be that size. They say it doesn't go on genetic lines, but the more people I talk to in the brain, we know so little about the brain, it's almost laughable if it was funny. So the people in the brain tumor community that I talk to, I find that the more research that we're doing, or just their personal experiences, I'm finding that the meningioma, which I have, okay, is they find out that, you know, the grandmother had it, or another family member had it, or they get it. So I'm thinking that it does go on genetic lines for some reason. That's the information that I'm kind of getting out of it. Brain tumors as a whole, I have no idea. You know, we know so very little about them that it's hard to tell. And that's why whatever they tell you as a neurosurgeon, it's not gospel. They're just going over, you know, what they've known for the past 20 or 30 years. If I had this operation done 20 years ago, they would have had to do it in 3 different sections. They never would have been able to do it all at the same time. And I had 2 full teams of neurosurgeons in me because of the duration of the surgery, because of the size of the tumor. So, did you have a question up there?
Do you like live life differently now?
I do. I do live life a little differently. I try not to get so involved in the petty nonsense of, you know, the challenges of the day. It's very easy to fall back into that. But, you know, when you come so close to, you know, checking out, and you didn't even know you were going to, it gives you a whole new perspective, you know, and you do see the forest for the trees. You do appreciate what you have. You know, when I was your age, I was invincible. I was indestructible. I understand that. And now, unfortunately, I feel even more indestructible, because I figure that couldn't kill me, and so, you know, I'm just going to go living until I'm 80, 90 years old.